Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Coming up in the next hour, the US and China hope to patch up differences as their commerce ministers meet in Beijing. Defense ministers of India and Kenya meet in New Delhi, the first ministerial level visit from Kenya since last year.
India and Kenya, in particular, have always enjoyed close and friendly relations. Our collaborations in trade, economy, education, health, and people-to-people contacts have grown from strength to strength.
India remembers the legendary hockey player Dhyan Chand on National Sports Day. And India's harvest festival Onam is being celebrated on the world stage. US and Chinese officials are holding a series of fresh talks on contentious trade issues during a three-day visit to Beijing by the US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. The trip is crucial for relations between the two countries as Washington seeks to diffuse tensions with China.
A pivotal moment for China and the US. US Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo met China's Vice Premier Hu Lifeng on her second day of talks in Beijing, aiming to boost business ties and communications. Earlier, Wang Wentao and Gina Raimondo met in Beijing to exchange views on bilateral trade. It was a significant meeting with a wide-reaching effect, with Wang stressing the importance of the two countries' relations to the rest of the world.
I am willing to work with you to create a good policy environment for cooperation between the business sectors of both countries and to promote the steady and predictable development of bilateral trade and investment so as to inject new impetus into the global economic recovery.
Raimondo also stressed the importance of bilateral trade and economic relations.
But as you say, the vast majority of our trade and investment relationship does not involve national security concerns. And in this regard, I'm committed to promoting trade and investment in those areas that are in our mutual best interest.
And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders reviewed progress on a number of issues around bilateral cooperation. They exchanged views on the recent BRICS summit. President Putin won't be attending the G20 summit next month and will be represented by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The Prime Minister also thanked President Putin for Russia's consistent support to all initiatives under India's G20 presidency. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh held bilateral talks with his Kenyan counterpart in the Indian national capital earlier today. Aden Bare Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Kenya's Ministry of Defence, was welcomed by Rajnath Singh with a guard of honour. This is the first and the highest level standalone political visit from Kenya since the new government assumed office in September last year. The visiting dignitary will visit the Indian shipyards and defence industries in India's port city of Goa and the southern city of Bengaluru as well. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh thanked Kenya for its support.
India and Kenya, in particular, have always enjoyed close and friendly relations. Our collaborations in trade, economy, education, health, and people-to-people contacts have grown from strength to strength. I am happy to note that both our countries worked closely in the UN Security Council in 2021-22 as non-permanent members, and we thank Kenya for their support to the Indian candidature for the 2028-29 term also.
And going back to our story on the Chinese and the US governments looking to mend their fences and bring their ties closer, especially in the business realm. We are joined by DD India's Andrew Wood, who's joining us from Hong Kong. Andrew, was it an easy decision to set up a working group given the tensions on semiconductors and supply chains?
It's very easy to set up a working group. It's whether that group will actually do any useful work, which is the difficult bit. It is interesting, I think, that the US Commerce Secretary, Ms. Raimondo, was invited to Beijing for these talks. So obviously, I think Beijing thinks it's been worth talking to the Americans over this. She is the woman, of course, who is in charge of most of the restrictions, or in empowering, or rather enforcing the restrictions that the US administration has decided to put on exports of things like the most advanced semiconductors and so on. So something seems to have been achieved. At least they're talking to each other. If they're setting up this working group, if they're exchanging more information, that is good news as well. But it's only a start, really. They do actually have to come up with some results, I think, over the next few months.
But Andrew, is there room for less government-to-government, contact and more business-to-business contact between the business interests of both countries?
I think the businesses don't really have much difficulty talking to each other. They're fairly pragmatic about it. They don't have to worry about, in a way that countries, governments diplomatically have to deal with each other through ambassadors, through protocols, démarches and all sorts of things. So I think the businesses get on quite well on the whole. It's the governments which are becoming more and more difficult to find it to talk to each other. In effect, I think if the two governments start exchanging information more on controls, it's almost like they have a hotline, perhaps. That's the thing that perhaps they should be aiming towards, so that neither side is surprised when the other side decides to change the rules or the regulations and so on.
Andrew Wood in Hong Kong, thanks very much. Now, the Kenyan Defense Secretary, who is in India, Aden Bare Duale, welcomed the move to strengthen relations between the two countries. He had met Rajnath Singh, India's defense minister.
When Prime Minister Modi visited our country in 2017, it was a historic visit. We want to acknowledge the support the Indian government continues to extend to Kenya, and to thank you, Minister, through many fields. At the defense level, we have cooperated in the surveillance of the Indian Ocean maritime space. And I am sure this visit will extend more our bilateral relations between our two countries, but more so between our defense sector.
Kenya's Defense Secretary Aden Bare laid a wreath at the National War Memorial in India's capital, New Delhi, and Duale arrived on Monday on a 3-day visit to India. This visit holds importance amid the growing cooperation between India and Kenya and is expected to open new avenues in strengthening defense ties between the two countries. Brazil's Army General Thomas Miguel Paiva is on an official visit to India. The Army Chief of Brazil laid a wreath at the National War Memorial in the capital city of India, New Delhi, on Tuesday. He was welcomed by a guard of honor at the President's house. The Brazilian general is scheduled to meet India's Army Chief and the Chief of Defense Staff, and will also visit the Army and Air Force units during his stay. The meeting aims to strengthen Army ties and defense partnership between the two countries. Thomas is the first Brazilian Army Chief to visit India. Well, the Brazilian army chief was receiving a guard of honor at India's defense ministry. Now, the chairman of the GMR Airports Infrastructure Group, Srinivas Bomidala, says that the ambition set by India and Greece is to double bilateral trade by 2030 is a good one. And he was present at the business leaders' lunch with the Indian and Greek Prime Minister. Srinivas spoke about cooperation in terms of airport infrastructure development and connectivity between India and Greece.
We are actually planning to bid for some more airports.
Okay.
And the meeting in the afternoon with all the business leaders between both the prime ministers was really fruitful. In fact, the connectivity between India and Greece has to increase. Once that increases, certainly it is going to be a win-win for both the economies in terms of GDP growth. Multiple other business opportunities will open up. Not just airports, I think there was also a discussion of what other businesses can come in. There were about 7 business leaders of each side has attended this meeting, and most of them have actually shown interest to develop new business relationships, and I'm sure certainly it is going to take India and Greece a long way. And I feel like for Indians to come into Greece, it is a gateway to Europe.
Health will be a focus from today at a 3-day workshop in Bengaluru during the lead up to the G20. The workshop is hosted by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Around 100 delegates are expected to attend and will discuss various issues of agricultural research and different thematic areas. Participants include foreign delegates from the G20 member countries and guests from the invited countries and international organizations.
The One Health concept aims to bring Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, which means let us all people and all the world be happy. India is the land of diverse ecosystems, rich biodiversity, and a population that depends heavily on its environment for sustenance. Our people's health, the health of our livestock, and the health of our environment are intricately intertwined. The recent global health challenges, including zoonotic diseases, climate change, have underscored the urgency of adopting united and coordinated strategy. In India, the Honorable Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council has recommended a One Health mission to coordinate, support and integrate existing One Health activities. The One Health approach aligns perfectly with our nation's values of harmony, balance and interconnectedness.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. The tropical storm Idalia intensifies as it gets closer to the Florida coast. A crackdown on polluting cars in London's ultra low emission zone gets extended. The Dharavi redevelopment plan comes with its own set of expectations.
Welcome to Kumarakom, Kerala, God's own country.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Well, authorities have been working around the clock to prepare the city, that's Delhi, ahead of the G20 summit. The focus has been on the beautification of the national capital with posters and lighting used to decorate the streets. Street art and welcome emblems with G20 branding can be seen at various places across the city. And Dibyendu Mondal is now with us to tell us more about the G20 preparations. Dibyendu, so Delhi getting a much needed facelift, one would think, but also at the same time, there are, rules and regulations, probably also welcome rules and regulations for the residents.
Absolutely, Mark. Delhi is getting a massive facelift ahead of the G20. We are just a week away from the main summit. As you move out of the Delhi airport from Dhaula Kuan right to the place where the main event is going to take place in Pragati Maidan, it is completely redecorated. A new design, a modern design with fountains, you'll see lion structures of horses, and various other illuminated fountains, in fact, placed across entire national capital. This is a massive facelift. The roads are being redone. Also, talking about regulations, it is important that the regulations have been put in place by the Delhi government as well as the Delhi police. So from the midnight of the 7th of September, the entire New Delhi police district will be locked down. Vehicular movement will be restricted. The public transport system, for example, the Delhi DTC buses will also not be allowed to fly in the New Delhi district. Residents have been advised to stay indoors for the 3 days because it is important to put these restrictions, in fact, because, a plethora of leaders, over 27 countries, the heads are coming to India, and there will be a lot of, VVIP movements across the national capital. And of course, there will be routes that will be diverted, restricted, as well as the NDMC area, the New Delhi Municipal Council area, has been put under a sort of a completely controlled area and sort of a lockdown, if I may say so, for the 3 days when the G20 summit will be held. Schools, offices, colleges, banks have also been advised to remain shut for these 3 days. Of course, because the government wants as less number of people on the streets as possible.
Dibyendu, thanks very much for joining us with those inputs, and we are now going back to our story on in fact, we were to go back to that story on the Kenyan Defense Secretary here, but we are now moving on to our next story. Another wave of extreme heat has hit Phoenix, Arizona in the United States, with temperatures rising to 116 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 46.6 degrees Celsius. Reminds me of Delhi in its, in its prime. Here's a report.
Arizona is facing another round of scorching summer heat, with temperatures hitting 116 degrees Fahrenheit on Monday. It's coming after a 31-day streak of temperatures above 100 degrees Fahrenheit over the month of July. But a break from those sweltering highs seem to be over. Visitors to the city like Alex Arriaga from Alabama have been taken aback by the heat's intensity.
It's a very dry heat. And if I had to really explain it to someone that wasn't from here, they probably would never want to come and visit. But it's got great scenery. If you're not from here, it's almost like they just built a city inside of a desert, which really is what it is. So.
Alex Young, the lead meteorologist at the National Weather Service's Phoenix office, said this summer is rivaling the hottest on record in 2020.
In terms of what we know with the period of record, it's on this heat over the summer, especially July and August, is unprecedented.
Young said that compared to 2020, the heat this summer is more concentrated across a shorter time frame.
The Earth is warming, we know that to be true. To what extent it has in terms of our day-to-day weather, Maybe not so much, but the things that we see in terms of the data is how things are trending over time, and things are trending warmer with more extreme events, kind of like what we've seen this summer with the heat wave.
Residents in low-lying areas along the Gulf Coast in Florida are bracing for the impact of tropical storm Idalia. The storm system is expected to become a hurricane in the coming days.
Tropical storm Idalia was expected to strengthen into a major hurricane before making landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast on Tuesday, according to the National Hurricane Center. The storm churned past western Cuba on Monday, giving Americans a preview of what's to come. Homes were flooded in towns south of Havana, and thousands of people were evacuated. Satellite animations show the storm's growing intensity. Its current northerly track put some 14 million Floridians under hurricane and tropical storm warning.
And this is an area that we're highlighting the danger of life-threatening inundation from storm surge. So the circulation of Idalia is going to push water from the Gulf of Mexico up into places like Charlotte Harbor, Tampa Bay, in the Big Bend region, where the storm surge is very, very sensitive here.
Floridians were seen on Monday making preparations ahead of Idalia's landfall. People in Tampa were seen filling up sandbags at a distribution point. School districts across the region cancelled classes starting on Monday afternoon. Tampa International Airport said it would suspend commercial operations starting Tuesday. At a gas station in Gainesville, people gathered emergency supplies. Some were seen filling up jerry cans of fuel, while things like bottled water quickly sold out.
Let's take a look now at other stories making news around the world. Rescuers have stepped up evacuation efforts in eastern and central China as unrelenting downpours continue to trigger flash floods and wreak havoc. Emergency respondents in Hubei and Jiangxi province were seen wading through high levels of floodwater to reach trapped residents. China has been gripped by weeks of heavy rains and floods amid an unusually wet summer. China's government has called for more precautions against flooding as Typhoon Saola now makes its way across the South China Sea. The wildfire in Greece that has killed at least 20 people is still raging for the 10th consecutive day, causing a severe heat wave. The fire, which began near the city of Alexandroupolis, has raged uncontrollably in northeastern Greece's Evros region. Thousands of people have had to flee their homes across Greece as hundreds of wildfires erupted across the country in the second major fire outbreak this summer. Mallorca has been hammered by severe storms, bringing heavy rains and flash floods. Strong winds brought trees down, sent cafe tables and chairs flying, and debris crashing into nearby buildings. Spain's National Weather Agency issued an amber alert for the Balearic Islands, including Mallorca and Catalonia in northeastern Spain. Flights in and out of Barcelona airport were also delayed due to high winds. Landslides and floods have washed away roads overlooking the picturesque Lake Como in northern Italy as a result of several storms. Powerful winds and heavy rain over the weekend caused widespread flooding and devastation in Italy. It is the most recent deluge in recent times, and torrential rain triggered a landslide in Blivio and flash floods in Genoa and Sondrio. Authorities said that the cleanup operation is underway in affected cities, adding that a significant flood risk remains in many parts of the country. A new report warns that the growing impact of unhealthy air could reduce life expectancy in South Asia as by more than 5 years per person. A University of Chicago study estimates that India contributes to nearly 59% of the increase in global pollution. The findings showed average life expectancy in India's New Delhi has decreased by more than 10 years. According to the World Health Organization, lowering harmful airborne particles can raise life expectancy by more than 2 years. And London expanded its ultra-low emission zone on Tuesday to all boroughs in a bid to discourage users of more polluting vehicles from entering the city. The drivers who choose to cross the boundary with vehicles that don't meet requirements will have to pay nearly $16 every day. Stuart Smith has more from London.
The centre of the city has had an ultra-low emissions zone since 2019, but this policy means hundreds of thousands more may be susceptible to the charge. The mayor proposed the policy in order to reduce the harm of toxic air pollution, which researchers found was responsible for prematurely killing 4,000 Londoners a year. Those in opposition say it's unfair on those who require a car to move around and don't have the means to upgrade their vehicle or use public transport alternatives. It's turned into a massive political hot potato between the Conservative government and the opposition Labour Party. While the Conservatives run the country, Labour runs London, and the elected mayor Sadiq Khan says the government seems to be weaponising air pollution and climate change for political reasons. Outrage amongst some has resulted in hundreds of the new ULEZ cameras reportedly being vandalised or stolen ahead of the start date to prevent vehicle number plates being scanned and stop fines being issued. The mayor's office says it's not backing down, with some cameras getting armour plating to protect them. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour, South Korean and US troops conduct joint maritime training. The Donald Trump DC trial is set for March 2024, right in the middle of the Republican presidential fight. Toyota Motor Corporation suspends operations at a dozen factories in Japan. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. A recap of our main stories. The US and China hope to patch up differences as their commerce ministers meet in Beijing. Defense ministers of India and Kenya meet in New Delhi, the first ministerial level visit from Kenya since last year. And the harvest festival Onam is celebrated on the world stage. And going back to our story on the patch-up efforts between the US and China's business interests, joining us is Ambassador Manjeev Puri, former senior diplomat, who's well versed in geoeconomics. Thank you, Ambassador Puri. Why is the US keen to patch up with China?
Mark, simple but very important question. China is the second largest economy, the third if you consider the European Union to be one economy. It is a lucrative business, and the United States, in my understanding, doesn't see any reason to be in only competition and confrontation, but to leverage each other. For the Chinese also, the US economy is of paramount importance. Having said this, let me leave a thought with you and the viewers. you know, when you look at hegemons, it is important from their perspective not just to be in confrontation, but to appear to be interacting with each other, because then it allows you to do whatever you wish to do from the inside. Otherwise, you are outside and, you know, you frankly don't have any control. So there is, in my opinion, the United States sees not just some kind of a continuation of its old trans-Pacific relationship, but there is a need for it, a need which suits their economy and which also perhaps, in a sense, allows them a continuation of the pursuance of their geopolitical interests.
But Mr. Puri, are the Chinese still able to leverage, you know, excessive control over supply chains, despite the decoupling that has begun post-COVID?
So, Mark, you know, the Chinese are facing the heat of this de-risking, decoupling, whatever word you may use. But the fact remains that they are the world's second largest economy and consequently of much interest to American, European and other nations' exporters. Secondly, Chinese are those who are in the supply chain, a country and an economy which is able to supply things at particularly competitive prices. And there is no reason for large economies, which in a sense, you know, have a great sense of self-confidence in themselves, to deny this particular advantage to themselves. And that's what I see as the kind of driving force. There is a win, even if it's with a small W, which the United States sees for itself, and the Chinese perhaps a win with a slightly bigger W.
Ambassador Manjeet Puri, thanks very much for enlightening us on the subject. Now, the French President Emmanuel Macron, in a speech to diplomats, has said that France's ambassador to Niger will stay in the country despite pressure from leaders of a recent coup. Macron reiterated support for Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum and said his decision not to officially resign despite being ousted in a coup was courageous. And Tessie Makende now joins us from Jos in Nigeria with an update on the story. So the French are staying put. They're saying that Bazoum hasn't resigned. Has anyone even recognized the junta leaders as yet?
Well, not just yet, but these pronouncements came after the junta invited the, French envoy to Niger Republic for talks, for the French envoy to recognize them as the new leaders of the country. But, I mean, the French envoy to Niger said he was not going to honor that invitation because as far as France is concerned, President Mohamed Bazoum, who has been toppled, remains the president of the country, of Niger Republic. So that it was on those heels that those pronouncements came from the junta, directing the French envoy to, giving the French envoy to Niger a 48-hour ultimatum to leave the country. So yes, those pronouncements came from Macron in France that just like his minister, or just like his representative in Niger, they still recognize President Mohamed Bazoum as the president of Niger Republic, and they will not honor any pronouncements from the junta. So yes, this is the situation.
Tassim, what additional pressure is ECOWAS putting on the junta besides the threats of war?
Well, the ECOWAS has rejected unequivocally a 3-year proposal by the junta. As far as the junta is concerned, they will only hand over to a democracy or a democratic government in 3 years. But ECOWAS says that cannot, they won't honor that at all. So they are sending more negotiating visits on teams to, relate and dialogue with the junta, looking at a way forward. But as far as they're concerned, 3 years, it's not acceptable by ECOWAS at all.
Tessie Makende, thanks very much for joining us. Now, In an update on the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the Russian Defense Ministry has termed its latest attack against Ukraine aviation weapons and ammunition a successful one, while reports say that Ukraine launched strikes against Russian command posts and air defense systems. The Ukraine armed forces say that 26 combats have taken place between Russian and Ukrainian forces in the past 24 hours. Amid all this, Ukraine's defense minister says there was no fallout between his country and Western partners over military strategy in the ongoing counteroffensive.
I can absolutely 100% confirm that there is no conflict. These assumptions by the Western press are mistaken and invented. There is no conflict. There is working, friendly communication, systematic consultations, and such meetings as that of Commander-in-Chief Valery Zelensky are systematically taking place between him and his counterparts. He doesn't leave the territory of Ukraine, and regarding the communication, not everything can be trusted, even certain protected means of communication.
It's been over 4 months since armed conflict broke out in Sudan between the National Army and their rival paramilitary forces. A humanitarian catastrophe has emerged in Khartoum, in Kordofan states and in Darfur region as well. The conflict has shed heavy shadows on the security, health and economic situation, giving no sign of relief to anyone soon, and all efforts to contain the country's crisis haven't reached a breakthrough. DD India's correspondent Naba Moidin reports from Sudan.
Hanan Rahamtallah is a mother of 4. She and her family normally live in Khartoum, but they were forced to flee 130 kilometers outside the Sudanese capital to Al Jazeera state after war broke out in April.
We live in very dire conditions. There are no beds, no food, and no medicine. Our kids don't have enough to eat. We want to return home. We want to return to our normal lives. We want the war to stop.
The war that broke out between Sudan's armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces has caused mass displacement and a humanitarian crisis. International agencies say they can't provide aid for those in need due to continued hostilities and unsafe humanitarian passages in both Darfur and Khartoum.
About 4.5 million people have fled war zones in Sudan since mid-April. Most have fled from Khartoum to central Sudan, about 100 kilometers away from the capital.
The United Nations say that about 1 million Sudanese have crossed into neighboring countries. The 4-month-long war has also hit the health system hard. 70% of hospitals aren't providing services due to the shelling, occupation by warring factions, and the lack of medicine. The conflict's aftermath, marked by hunger, disease, and extensive displacement, is putting the entire country at the brink of the collapse.
I came here in May. I miss Khartoum, I miss my house, and I miss all of the details. We lost everything, and we don't have anything here. This war must stop.
Sudan's army commander, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has gone to the coast city of Port Sudan for the first time since April to meet with the government. New talks in Jeddah are expected to be launched soon and could pave the way for permanent cessation and end the war, but it wouldn't immediately bring an end to the humanitarian crisis or bring families like Hanan Rahamtallah's home. Naba Muhiddin, reporting from Al Jazeera State in Sudan for DD India.
March 4th, 2024. That's the day Donald Trump's federal trial on allegations that he tried to overturn the 2020 presidential election is slated to begin. That means that the former president and current Republican 2024 frontrunner will be juggling a schedule full of court cases and campaigning. DD India's Tony Waterman has more from Texas.
This trial would start in the middle of the Republican presidential primaries and the day before Super Tuesday. That is when more than a dozen states will vote on potential presidential nominees. Now, Trump's team had asked for the trial to be pushed back to April of 2026, arguing that they needed the time to review all 13 million pages of evidence that's been turned over so far. But Judge Tanya Chutkan refused, saying that a March 4th start date was adequate time to prepare. She said Trump will have to prioritize the trial and that she won't be making any changes to the schedule for professional obligations. One thing she did do, though, was check in with the judge overseeing Trump's hush money case in Manhattan, because there is likely to be overlap. That trial, in which the former president faces 34 charges, is scheduled to start in late March. Now, Trump took to social media to lambast the trial date, calling it election interference and saying that he will appeal. But the truth is, he is fighting 91 charges across 4 cases that could all go to trial before Election Day in November of 2024. Besides the elections case in D.C., there's again that hush money case in New York, the mishandling of classified documents in Florida, that trial slated to start next May, and the Georgia elections case, where Trump and 18 co-defendants have been charged with trying to overturn the election results in that state. The prosecutor there wants that trial to start this coming October, setting up a very busy year of court cases and presidential campaigning for Donald Trump. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
The South Indian Harvest Festival of Onam is being celebrated all over today. The festivities have captivated all of India as people are celebrating by offering prayers, dressing up in colorful clothes and spending time with family. In a spectrum of cultural events, a group of women were seen dressed in their traditional finery in India's southern state of Kerala. Some were seen singing folk songs and dancing around beautiful floral art. India's Minister of Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, on Tuesday unveiled the prototype of the world's first BS6 compliant electric flex fuel vehicle. The new Toyota Innova Hi-Cross will run on 100% ethanol. Gadkari has been encouraging car manufacturers to design vehicles that use alternative fuels and are more environment friendly.
प्रोटोटाइप वर्ल्ड की फर्स्ट BS6 स्टेज 2 इलेक्ट्रिफाइड फ्लेक्स फ्यूल इनोवा गाड़ी आज लॉन्च हो रही है। हमारे इकोनॉमी में 16 लाख करोड़ का फॉसिल फ्यूल हम इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। इकोनॉमिक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ये कितनी बड़ी समस्या है ये तो आप समझ सकते हैं।
The auto giant Toyota Motor Corp has suspended operations at a dozen factories in Japan due to a systems failure. It is not immediately clear when the system will be restored. Public broadcaster NHK reported on Monday. All local plants except for the Miyata plant in western Japan of Fukuoka and Toyota unit Deschutes plant in Kyoto are affected. Now, operations at the world's largest automaker by sales ground to a halt last year when one of its suppliers was hit by a cyber attack. Well, the International Monetary Fund's chief, Kristalina Georgieva, will leave for Asia on Wednesday for a tour that will take her to China, Indonesia and India. China will be the first stop, where she will meet with some of the country's top leaders before departing on September 3. According to the IMF spokesperson, Georgieva will take part in the Leaders Summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Indonesia's Jakarta. In India, she will attend the Group of 20 summit in New Delhi from the 8th to the 10th of September. The IMF's Asia tour comes after the IMF last month raised the outlook for the world economy this year, partly on expectations for a soft landing in the US. Still to come on DD India News Hour. The nation remembers the legendary Dhyan Chand on National Sports Day. Novak Djokovic makes a winning start to his US Open campaign. And unique celebrations underway in the UAE for the Onam festival.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such change makers.
Watch Change Makers.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. The Indian billionaire Gautam Adani's plan to rehouse 1 million people living in one of Asia's biggest slums is fueling worries among residents about his capacity to deliver.
The Dharavi slum in India's Mumbai is home to 1 million people, making it one of the world's biggest. It has a complicated history dating back to the 1800s. Now a plan to overhaul the area is causing residents to get jittery about what the future holds and where they fit into it. You might recognize Dharavi from the Oscar-winning movie Slumdog Millionaire. The slum is known for producing leather goods, and many residents run small businesses out of their homes. At the helm of plans to redevelop Dharavi into a modern city hub are Indian billionaire Gautam Adani and the Adani Group. In July, the state government approved his $614 million contract bid to overhaul the slum, after years of failed attempts. The Adani Group says it will demolish what it describes in legal documents as an area of unhygienic, deplorable conditions, and build new towers on state-owned land to accommodate residents and their businesses. Adani stands to make billions from the project. Residents worry the redevelopment will take away their livelihoods.
We also want to live in a bigger house. However, we are scared that the tailoring business we are running here, whether it will be able to grow or not.
The overhaul will come with free homes, but only for those who lived here before 2000. About 700,000 residents are considered ineligible and will be offered units up to 6 miles away. That could require them to pay upfront costs or higher rents. The project comes at a tumultuous time for Adani, who has acknowledged the project presents colossal challenges. He was considered the world's third richest person until January, when allegations by a U.S. short seller of improper dealings wiped $150 billion off his group's market valuations. In interviews with Reuters, some Dharavi residents said the billionaire's financial troubles contributed to their mistrust, with some wondering where they would go if the project fell apart. A fresh threat to the project is a legal challenge from rival bidder SecLink Technologies Corporation. It alleges that an original 2018 tender was improperly canceled and restarted with new terms last year, so that Adani could win, according to court papers reviewed by Reuters. The current state government and Adani are contesting the case.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for the sports news, and Deepika Mehta joins me in the studio for the sports news. Over to you, Deepika.
Thanks and good afternoon, Mark. The country is celebrating National Sports Day, so we are tracking all the updates on this day. So India is celebrating National Sports Day today. Every year, 29th of August is celebrated as the National Sports Day to commemorate the birth anniversary of hockey legend Major Dhyan Chand Singh. Our next report brings you all that you need to know about National Sports Day.
India celebrates National Sports Day on 29th August to commemorate the birth anniversary of hockey legend Major Dhyan Chand. The day is also dedicated to the nation's sports heroes and champions, honoring their contribution and dedication towards bringing laurels to the country. In recognition of his unparalleled contributions to the realm of sports, the Indian government declared his birthday as National Sports Day in 2012, with the aim to inspire generations to come. This decision was also focused on promoting sports and physical fitness among the people in the country. Dhyan Chand, The hockey wizard is considered equal to Pele in football and Bradman in cricket. It is said that when he used to take hockey to the ground, the ball used to stick to his stick as if he was playing hockey with a magic stick. Even today, no player has been able to reach the records made by Dhyan Chand in hockey. Born in Allahabad on 29th August 1905, which is now known as Prayagraj, Major Dhyan Chand was the greatest Indian hockey player. Before the Second World War, Dhyan Chand played a key role in getting India gold medals in hockey in 3 consecutive Olympics in 1928 Amsterdam, 1932 Los Angeles and 1936 Berlin. He was the top scorer for India in 1928 Amsterdam Olympic Games as he scored 14 goals. Major Dhyan Chand played his last match in the year 1948. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan in 1956. His birthday was declared as the National Sports Day of India. The highest sports honor in India, Khel Ratna, has been named after the hockey wizard. With the aim to raise awareness about the values of sports, discipline, perseverance, sportsmanship, teamwork, and to encourage the public in large to take up sports and make it an integral part of lives while emphasizing on the importance of being fit and healthy, India celebrates the National Sports Day in recognition of unparalleled contributions of sportspersons with the aim to inspire generations to come. This decision was also focused on promoting sports and physical fitness among the people in the country. Sports Desk, DD India.
Union Sports Minister of India, Anurag Singh Thakur, also congratulated the nation on the occasion and paid his tributes to the hockey legend. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also extended his greetings to the nation on the occasion of National Sports Day. In a tweet he wrote, and I quote him here, "On National Sports Day, my greetings to all sportspersons. India is proud of their contribution to the nation. I pay homage to Major Dhyan Chand ji as well on his birth anniversary," unquote. And now to talk more about this, I have with me Mr. Rakesh Rao, the senior sports journalist. Good afternoon, sir. A very happy National Sports Day to you. Now, let me open this discussion with Union Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur's statement that he just mentioned, because right now he's meeting with all the athletes, felicitating them on the occasion of National Sports Day. He said, and I quote him here, that our athletes have consistently proven their mettle at the global stage, unquote. What is your assessment of the meteoric rise of India in the sporting landscape, sir?
Well, in the last about, say, a decade or so, yes, we are seeing a change, but I think we still have a long way to go. Having said that, it's great to see that we are not doing just well in a sport or two. Across the spectrum, you'll see a lot of performers now, be it, archers, shooters, badminton players. Of course, hockey has now, it has been re-injected with some, fresh energy. Cricket, of course, we have been doing reasonably. We've been there in cricket, so I don't have to speak about it. Then, if you take some of the indoor games like, billiards and snooker, chess, carom, we all have been, doing reasonably well in all these. And it is not just that we are only looking at a sport or two. This was not the case about 15, 20 years ago, but now at least we have that. Post 2010 Commonwealth Games, the impetus by the union government, that has definitely helped. And there have been a lot of schemes that have helped them, but I don't want to go, gaga over the entire scheme and all, because a lot of players have done a lot of good work. So it is a teamwork where the authorities have to do their job, the players have to put in their 200%, and then the results show. So here what we are looking at is that, it's a fantastic time for us to just ensure that, that we just try to build on this entire, this kind of space where the results are there for us. Momentum is there, but I still feel for us to call ourselves as a sporting nation, we still have a long way to go, because people still don't take up sport as part of their day-to-day life. It is like they don't take up a sport, because we as a nation, I mean, even after 76 years of independence, I still feel that there are priorities which we have to address, and sports is not up there, and which is fine with me. But when going forward, I think, we need to make sports a priority, and
Right.
I'll be very happy to see that day. But yes, we have come a long way, no doubt about it.
And as you rightly mentioned, this is a teamwork. So how do you see government's role in this?
Yeah, government, see, I don't think anything, if I look at, say, 2000 and up to 2008, I would say, because I would say that, till that time, the support of the government, and we say that it is a state subject and whatever, I mean, you still have to ensure that the support is there. But the point is that ever since we had the Commonwealth Games, then the government woke up and they said, okay, this is the time for us to ensure that since we're hosting it, we need to show what we can do at home. We won more than 100 medals, and which was phenomenal. I don't see that happening in a hurry, but yes, 100 was a tall order. But at the same time, thereafter, what I've seen is that the impetus given to shooting, badminton, these are the two events where there was so much of impetus, and we saw results there. And thereafter, of course, if you see as of now in 2023, you have archery, you have shooting, you have chess. You can just keep on adding to it, because that is the best thing. Boxers are doing well, from various championships. You see that Indians are in contention. So for me, that is a big takeaway.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Rao, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on how the nation is not only celebrating National Sports Day, but continuously making improvements to make it even more better. Now let's talk about tennis. Novak Djokovic made a winning return to the US Open by storming past Frenchman Alexander Mueller by 6-0, 6-2, 6-3 to take the first step towards matching Margaret Court's record haul of 24 Grand Slams. So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Mark, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Deepika. And before we wrap up, we'll take you to the United Arab Emirates, where healthcare heroes from diverse nationalities added a unique touch to this year's Onam festival. They crafted a stunning 250 square meter Pukalam, which is a floral art piece to mirror the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour.